To understand every dumpling in the world, you must learn one fundamental truth. A single drop of tap water decides if a wrapper steams delicate or boils into mush. Sturdy boiled dumplings, like Chinese shui jiao and Russian pelmeni, are perfect examples. By the end of this guide, you will know exactly how precise dough hydration turns simple flour into resilient pockets or shatteringly crisp shells across every dumpling style in the world. The exact temperature of the water you pour into your flour dictates whether your dumpling will be boiled or fried. And it all starts with the basic chemistry of cold tap water. For these classic boiled dumplings, the secret to mastering the wheat wrapper is not the brand of flour, it is the cold water itself. When you mix cold water into dry flour, you activate glutenin and gliadin. These are the two main proteins found in wheat flour. Think of them like two separate Lego pieces that snap together to build a strong chain. When combined with cold water and physical kneading, they form a strong gluten network. This stretchy web of proteins acts like a microscopic net of interlocking rubber bands holding the dough together. This creates a highly elastic, rubbery armor that physically stops the dumplings from exploding when you throw them into furiously boiling water. Without this cold water protein net, your boiled dumplings will turn into a pot of disintegrating mush. Building this structural net requires precise measurements. The golden ratio for standard dumpling wrappers is around 50% hydration by weight, roughly 1 part water to 2 parts flour. Think of it like the ratio of wet cement to dry powder. This low moisture mix guarantees a stiff dough that holds tight pleats perfectly. But you cannot use it immediately. You must let your freshly kneaded dough rest for at least 30 minutes before rolling it out. This crucial time allows the tense, cramped muscle of the protein network to relax after a heavy workout. Skipping this step is exactly why most homemade dumpling wrappers end up frustratingly thick. Without resting, the dough stays tense and snaps back tightly like a rubber band when rolled out to paper-thin dimensions. Japanese gyoza and Chinese potstickers demand a completely different chemical approach from their boiled cousins. Instead of cold tap water, you pour furious boiling water straight into dry flour. This sudden heat is the exact trick that dictates the difference between a chewy, dense boiled wrapper and a perfectly crispy potsticker. Hitting raw flour with boiling water instantly cooks the proteins upon contact. This intense heat denatures the proteins, meaning it destroys their original shape. It is exactly like cooking a liquid egg white, so it permanently turns solid and loses its stretch. Because the proteins are cooked before you even begin kneading, they simply cannot form those long, stretchy gluten bonds. The interlocking rubber bands never develop. This simple temperature swap yields a remarkably tender dough that will not snap back when you roll it out into thin circles. This is the absolute requirement for wrappers that are tender to bite into instead of tough and chewy. It is the only way to build a base that fries perfectly. A hot water dough allows the bottom of a gyoza to form a crispy, lacy bottom crust, known as hane, in the hot oil, while the top half steams to a delicate finish. If you mistakenly used cold water dough for potstickers, the resulting crust would be brutally hard and impossible to bite through. Translucent dim sum dumplings, most famously the shrimp-filled ha-gao, rely on purified wheat starch and tapioca rather than whole flour. Because these delicate, glassy pockets lack gluten entirely, they have absolutely zero structural elasticity. Because there is no gluten to act as a stretchy net, these wrappers should theoretically crumble into dry dust the second you try to fold them. To keep them from falling apart, cooks rely on an extreme physical reaction. They hit the pure starch with a blast of boiling water to instantly gelatinize the starches, acting as a powerful binder. This intense heat and moisture forces the tiny microscopic starch granules, which behave just like microscopic sponges waiting to soak up liquid, to rapidly swell and pop. This reaction creates a sticky gel. It is like turning dry powder into a thick, sticky wallpaper paste. This edible glue is the only thing physically holding a ha-gao together. You can drop starch-based dumplings into boiling water, but you usually steam ha-gao. When you steam a pure starch wrapper, the moist heat causes starch granules in the wrapper to absorb water and instantly gelatinize. This precise vapor hydration yields a distinctively chewy and glassy texture compared to boiled dough. The wrapper becomes completely translucent, letting the pink shrimp inside shine through. Italian ravioli and Eastern European pierogi take dumpling hydration in a richer direction by ditching plain tap water for eggs and dairy. While Asian dumplings rely strictly on water temperature to manipulate texture, these European styles use animal fat to engineer the dough. Traditional Italian ravioli and tortellini swap plain tap water for whole eggs, mixed directly into high-protein 00 flour. This specific Italian flour is incredibly fine, feeling like powdered sugar compared to regular granulated sugar. The natural water hiding inside the egg whites hydrates the flour to form the dough structure, while the egg yolks infuse it with pure fat. This dual action connects the dots between Asian dumplings and Italian pasta, enriching the dough to yield a luxurious, deeply silky bite that stands up to heavy cream sauces.
Subscribe, please. Eastern European pierogi and Russian pelmeni achieve their legendary comfort food texture through a different dairy trick. Cooks incorporate whole eggs or sour cream directly into the dough. The fat in these dairy products physically coats the dry flour particles. This greasy coating shortens the gluten strands, which simply means using fat to break up long protein chains in the dough. It is exactly like putting oil on two magnets so they cannot stick together. By physically blocking the gluten from forming long, tough webs, the dairy fat guarantees a remarkably softer, more tender bite than a plain water dough ever could. Xiao, the famous Shanghainese soup dumplings, represent a pinnacle of wrapper engineering. They combine the raw strength of cold water dough with extreme mechanical precision to solve a seemingly impossible problem. They demand a dough sturdy enough to hold melted gelatin broth inside a paper-thin pastry without tearing. The wrapper has to be stretched thin enough to see through, then carefully gathered and pinched together into 18 or more complex pleats at the top, rather than folded in half. These delicate pleats form a sealed pouch that absolutely must not rupture under the weight of the heavy melted gelatin broth inside. You can appreciate the extreme culinary skill required every time you lift one with chopsticks and it holds its shape. And if you have ever wondered how chefs trap liquid soup inside a sealed wrapper without soaking and ruining the wet dough, it involves a brilliant trick of thermodynamics. As CNN Travel explains, Xiaolongbao are also unique in that, aside from the traditional pork filling, a small piece of aspic is folded into the dumpling, which melts when steamed. This means the savory soup inside a dumpling is actually inserted as a solid cube of cold meat jelly. The dough never touches wet liquid during the folding process. It is only when the bamboo basket goes over the fire that the intense heat forces the solid block of meat jelly to melt back into a rich, savory broth. You are effectively steaming a solid until it becomes a liquid soup inside its own edible bowl. The original Chinese Jiaozi, a foundational blueprint for many dumpling styles, was not invented as a culinary appetizer. Strangely enough, historical legend claims that the world's most popular dumpling started out as a medical prescription designed to cure frostbitten ears. During the Eastern Han Dynasty, a physician named Zhang Zhongjing reportedly saw people suffering from extreme winter cold. To treat them, he took spicy chilies and fatty lamb meat and stuffed them inside a hearty wheat wrapper. He boiled these restorative pockets and served them with hot broth to improve circulation and warm their bodies. The very first dumplings functioned purely as edible heat packs. Next time you bite into a dumpling, pay attention to that stretchy pull of the dough before the hot broth spills out. That wrapper is just half the battle. Click here to see the explosive internal chemistry hidden inside our video, Every Noodle Explained. If you liked this, Every Coffee Explained, that's the next one.